Hi, Anna. Once again, it's really nice to be in this space to explore the grief and grieving. And I think today, Anna and Anu, that's both of us, are thinking of exploring about the grief that women go through, not necessarily because of loss of a person, but other kinds of grief that women go through. And we were just talking about the grief that women go through while working, after having a baby, or when there's a transition that was happening before marriage, after marriage, so many things. So Anna, would you like to share this recent experience that you had with one of your clients where she was sharing about the grief that she brought to your space?
Yes. So, hi, Anushli, and yes, I'm happy also to be here to share this space, and is I think a wonderful idea to discuss the concept of grief, not only in the classical way that people may associate it with, so the loss of a person, but also grief is something that we experience whenever we lose something that has a significant importance in our life. And what I've noticed concerning the subject you have brought, women, when after they have a significant change in their life, like they have a baby, they struggle immensely to meet the obligations and responsibilities for their work, especially as before having the baby, and also continuing to look after their baby in the best way that they can. And the conversations that often come with one of my clients is that she is experiencing this high anxiety around how she can be a good mother for her daughter, and how is she a good mother if she leaves her daughter in the daycare in the morning and she takes her in the evening, and then her daughter gets sick, because kids get sick so often in their early stage. And so she's experiencing this anxiety that on one hand, she has to still do the work, especially since she started a new job recently, and also fulfilling her duties as a mother. So there is this constant pressure of how to meet the fulfillments at work and still continue to be a good mother and be present for your child. And I think this subject is not very well understood. And I think it's not even tolerated to be open for discussion. That's my perception so far. Women discuss among themselves, but they would never go to share it in a space where some actions that can support them would be taken. So it remains as the dark side, right? So instead of experiencing the most beautiful thing that a woman can experience in her life, becoming a mother, much of this joy, I think, it's shadowed by continuing to keep up with responsibilities and outside the role of being a mother, and also at the job. And I believe that even though there is this tolerance from the employers, it's an apparent tolerance. And even the word in itself, tolerance, does not mean acceptance. As long as women still feel the anxiety, it means that there is still space for improvement. If women still feel anxiety around how they can be present for their child in a way that will also give them the comfort that they are being good mothers, it means that there is still improvement for companies and employers to actually accommodate these roles that women have to have at home and at work.
Actually, this is very interesting because I was reflecting about my own story many years back when I was working for HR division. And think I'm working for HR and it happened, right? So I can imagine how it might be in the other divisions. Where my son was very sick, and I told that he's sick. He's not even moving, and still my HOD is telling, okay, this training, that has to happen. Like, you're the only person who can do it, and you just, you know, come and do. And I said, okay. My family members, they were so understanding. They said, okay, we'll take care. Don't worry, you just go do it and come. Then I went, I did it. I was holding on to my emotions so tightly, where I think if someone would have tapped me, I would have burst. Right. So after finishing everything, I just went straight away to the CHRO and said, like, my kid is not well. I remember I even cried. And I'm here because this is something that I've been asked to do, and I was asked to come, and that's why came, and I'm done with it, and I want to go home now. I can't be here. And I don't know from where I got that courage on that day. I think, don't know whether when we become mother, that courage comes with us. I don't know that. That's the day I decided that I have to, uh, you know, bring a shift in my life on how I approach life and work. Because, in fact, today I watched a video. It was by a news reporter. She was saying that when her child was very small, or when maybe after pregnancy, where her boss said, like, you have to get into shape now, back to work, like, something like that, without even recognizing or trying to understand or empathizing, possibly, what's going on, what's happening. And the other thing she was sharing is where when the child was having an infection, a small infection, but she was crying. She was not feeling okay as a mother, but the family said, everything okay, we'll take care, don't worry, go to work. And she went to work. She mentioned that she was right in front of the screen. She's supposed to read. By that time, she was in tears. And they had to change the schedule a bit and all. And she has told at that time that, I know my daughter is okay. I know that everything is okay with her, but I am not feeling okay sitting in front of this at this moment. So I think it's not about is the situation is in control only. When it comes to this parenting and all these things that we leave back and come to work, it's also about what am I feeling. And I know certain feeding mothers who sometimes come to office and cry because their milk, it gets accumulated and it gives pain to them. They get this breast pain and all those things. I've met women like that who have worked with me also, and they think it's okay and it's normal, and I need to get on with this. But if you're, as a mother, not feeling okay about what's really happening with your body, with your emotions, I think it's time to pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now? I'll pause it there and ask from you, Anna. What do you think?
Well, I think that women need a change in the mindset. And I think it's also especially because women will tend to do what they also see around other women. They tend to borrow the example of other women. And so if they're in an environment where all the other women will try to minimize the impact of also being a mother, or try to show that, they are the perfect mothers. Because I've also seen these situations like this, women that are very successful with 3-4 children, successful in their professional life. And then I know that recently I shared this view that someone shared with me the profile of a very known judge. And I said, I know this woman from the newspaper and the famous cases that she did at the European Court of Justice. And she's incredible because she has 5 or 6 kids. And then she told me, yeah, but you don't want to have her life. And on one hand, I do appreciate this kind of women that they find their own formula of success that works for them. But what women need to understand is that how we make it work, it's something that really depends on each of us individually and based on our values and what will get us forward in life. And that they should not let themselves influenced by these models, because you never know the story behind. And you never know the trade-offs that such people did in order to progress in their career, and what the support is that they received at home in order to also have a family life. So it's important to also know the behind story, and sharing, I think it's important, and not sharing behind closed doors, but really sharing it, as I said before, in a much more formal way. And I know that also companies do that. Sometimes they pick some women as the image of success. But my question is, why do we need only one? We should ask all women how successful they feel that they can fulfill both their career and their roles as a mother. When we choose just one woman to be representative, or a handful of women from big companies to come and to say their story about motherhood, we are leaving behind all the other examples. And this is a very big debate, but because you ask what a person should ask herself in that moment, what do they need? I think women are also afraid, because I think deeply every woman knows what she needs. Every woman knows what she needs. But then it's a question, if you let the fear dominate you and you say, okay, it's not the time and it's not the place, I need to keep going, I need to push just a bit more. And there are consequences that maybe you don't see it today, but you will see it later. So in addition to ask this question, what do they need, is also to reflect on what is the impact of the choices they make today, and how the choices they make today reflect what they want to experience more in the future. Because when you would compromise to say, okay, I need to stay to finish this project because it's important, what will stop this situation from happening in the future? Because you already silently expressed your priorities. You expressed that it's okay to put your family second or your kids second, because for you, priority number one, it's your work. And that's how you will send the message that you can be treated.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I really like to read this quote, which I came across today. It says that in toxic cultures, time off is a reward earned by working to exhaustion. Burnout is proof of commitment, and vacations are required to recover. But in healthy cultures, time off is a right granted to everyone. Well-being is a top priority, and vacations are encouraged to rejuvenate. And I think the fear is coming because of these toxic cultures.
Toxic cultures. And if I can add this, because I was also come across something and I highlighted, it was not for this conversation today, but I think it fits very well. So it's from the book that's called The Transformational Coach. But here I like this quote that it says, we need to help thinkers, and here in this context, thinkers are the persons being coached and their organizational sponsors, to let go of the idea that we can compartmentalize work and life and live life at the metaphorical or physical door. This belief is old-fashioned anyway, but even more out of kilter with the philosophy of coaching. So I think it comes together with what you said.
Yeah.
And even more, I think in toxic cultures, there is this invisible pressure, right, to compartmentalize, to leave your personal life at the door, and you are there for the employer, as if you can have a button and you switch, and then everything, you know, goes away for the next 8 hours. You have to be fully committed there. And if you don't, it means you are not loyal, you are not performing, and so forth. And what stayed with me was also when I read from the study of McKinsey, why women don't manage to fill in this gap of women in leadership. And they said that women are quitting because they feel that they cannot reconcile their professional life and personal life. And then the question that came up to me was like, why we never hear from men the same reason for not
good one,
not going into leadership position, because they cannot reconcile professional and personal life. And there is this topic as well in parallel where I know that it's called the invisible work, all the work that women do at home, and it's not remunerated. And the sacrifices, in the end, it's a sacrifice because you give up something in order to compensate for something else, which is not remunerated. And I think that puts women in a very vulnerable position also from an economic point of view.
Yeah. And you know, this newsreader that I said I watched today, her interview, she was saying that the other people may not understand what I was going through because no man sits in front of the screen and says, I'm crying because my child is not and I don't want to be here, right? So I think it is a difficult thing. Just a message to all those men who still feel that, oh, this doesn't make sense. We treat women in a wonderful way or whatever. Let me tell you that still you don't know. You don't understand what women are going through, because you need to become a woman to really understand what they're going through, what the narrations that they are telling to them, their own selves, and how much guilty they are feeling about doing certain things. Like, as you correctly said, women are like, celebrated on this Mother's Day and all, and they make them feel like, oh wow, you're wonderful, kind of a thing, right? And on the other day, what happens is like she's someone else doing something at sometimes. Or maybe on the other hand, yes, you're celebrating. So the mothers, they forget sometimes, while I'm being celebrated, I am also not honoring my own needs, my emotions. I am indulging in that celebration, and I'm putting my emotions to the back seat, saying, I'm going to do this for my family. I'm going to do this for my kids. I'm going to do this for my spouse. So who is going to take care of your emotions? Who is going to take care of your feelings? And do you know these emotions actually builds up and it gets stored in our body? And these things only actually turns out to become some diseases in the long run.
Exactly. And because you mentioned this connects again to something else I was reading. There is a very interesting book on how to make the connection between disease and the repressed emotion. What is the emotions that were actually building up, and the spiritual meaning of that disease? And because we are here in the context of talking about the grief, I was a bit surprised when I read that actually repressed grief, so when we are not allowing ourselves to live this emotion as it comes, with sadness, with angerness, with crying, we are not allowing it to be released from our body. So it builds up. And in time, this repressed grief actually affects your heart. And that's how you start to have heart problems. And then you start to go to do investigations and to see what's going on with your heart. Are you moving enough? Are you not moving? And we always go to look to this, how to call them, tangible things. We try to find explanations in tangible things. Are you eating properly? Are you making enough movement? But we oftenly forget to look at what is our being. How do we feel every morning when you wake up? How do you feel when the first moment in the morning when you wake up and you open the eyes? What's the first thing that goes through your mind? What's your status? How is your body feeling? What the emotions that you are feeling? And I believe that grief can come in this context of motherhood, because I was talking to a friend, and that's what I've noticed. We're talking with other women as well. It's a moment when you get the chance to withdraw yourself a bit from this routine. You step out of the hamster wheel, if I can say it. And so your brain has the space to actually start to analyze, okay, how was I living my life? Does it still fit me? And that's when transformation happens, and women have this realization, well, I cannot sustain the same level of life that I had before. I need to do some adjustments. And maybe the grieving is just an assumption I'm making right now, but maybe the grieving is also grieving the old self that you need to let go of, because it's not going to help you move forward with the new life where you have to be a mother as well, and someone's life depends on you. So, and it's funny you mentioned as well that men cannot understand women, because it's true that the emotions that women experience sometimes can only be understood by other women, but not the men. Because usually the reaction of men is, oh, why are you crying? There's no reason to cry. Or let's cheer you up. Let's go for a dinner, or let's go see a movie. Let's do something nice. They are not educated. They are not formed in the way to process the emotion.
Yeah, I think
they are taught to
taught. They are not taught. They are not. They are conditioned by the community and society in a totally different way. And I also see that this grief, women, when they carry grief, they also have a negative impact on other women. They sometimes harass other women because of the grief that they have not worked on within themselves. I have come across bosses, women bosses like that. And I also have clients who are struggling because of such traits that they have built, because of those grief that they have not worked on. It's actually like a chain. It's coming out through different ways. And for some reason, they from the clients that I have worked with, or my observation in the community, I'm seeing that they are mostly pouring out on another woman. And possibly that may be because they're comparing themselves with the other, like a feeling of, like a competitive thought when you become like selfish, when you become like when you feel like someone else has something that I don't have, or you feel that I also went through this, you better also go through this experience. What you
the
do
same
is
way.
you pour that, It's not just, it's the way it is. Let's go through this together. This is how I did. I went through. You also go through this process like that. So it's not just only in workplaces, even at homes. If you see these in-laws issues, it's coming sometimes, or even the mothers sometimes treating their daughters, or there is a kind of a chain that's why I feel this grief and grieving process is such an important thing. And especially for mothers, I feel it's very, very important because they go through a lot of transitions in their journey. Let's say a working mother, right? So first they are going to school, and then they have this puberty ceremony, puberty phase. They are going through a transition there. Of course, men are also going through, but it is not called out. And ideally, I think equal attention has to be given for both gender to try to educate them of the transition that they're going through. And then again, they get into college. There's another transition going through because in families, the way they bring up men and women is different. So when women go to college, there's so much protection, like a kind of a nest kind of built around them, saying when you're going for it's becoming better now, not like those days, but in a this has been a kind of a practice. Then you go to you get married. Then what happens? Another transition happening, and then you have a baby, another transition happening. So even to have a baby, they would have gone through a process such as miscarriages, a lot of comments from the community saying, why you don't have a baby yet? Why this much time it's taking? Maybe you're not doing this right. I met someone recently like that who has been a very active, ambitious person, got married late, and now 2 years she is not doing any work but just working on trying to figure out how can she have a baby. And what she did not know until I brought to awareness in the conversation, what she did not know is you are thinking you are working on having the baby, but you are also going through a grieving process inside you during these 2 years, which you're not aware of. And it's affecting you more than you trying to have a baby. I mean, there's so much you can keep on adding to the list when you talk about, and women going to work maybe after marriage. I mean, working while you're a spinster versus working while you're married versus working out while after you having a baby, or working while you're pregnant. All these are, I think, different phases that we go through. And how we treat is like, for an example, in 20 years, I'm very energetic. I do a lot of things. I have a lot of potential. And let's say I'm 60 years and I'm going to the same job, same bosses, they are sitting there with say, and he or she is expecting me to perform the same way I performed in 20 years. Okay. Now, this is possible. If I ask this question, everybody would say, no, it's not possible. But you go and ask this question about a woman who did not have a baby versus after having baby coming and working. What's really happening in your body? Do you know that? No. But what you're saying, you're stretching the KPIs, you're making her feel guilty for not showing up to work completely as a whole person because she's going through some hormonal changes within her. And I think as a summary to this whole thing, what I'm reflecting with you today is the not honoring the transition, physical and emotional transition that person is going through during their journey. I think we are setting the same KPIs throughout the journey without seeing where the other person is. And we are also connecting to the potential of that person. So what happens is I'm being judged. My potential is being judged. So I have to shut my emotions and just work. That's it.
Yeah, that's the message that is being sent. And the idea that KPIs should be adjusted here, I think you can hear a lot of debates, because there will be women that said that they don't want to suffer, or they don't want to experience material adjustments because they became mothers. They still can do the same work. They are still competent. And then there is the pressure from men. And I also noticed in this context of gender equality, like, okay, let's give to men what women have. If we are saying that women, for example, they don't have the same career progression or with the same dynamic as men, is because they have these interruptions due to maternity. Well, let's give also the chance for men to take this break. So let's give them the opportunity to also take 6 months or whatever they want to spend time with their child, while women also go to continue their career. But the thought that came to my mind is like, are we really honoring the women in this context? Are we really creating? We may create equality, but I don't think we are creating equity, because we are giving to men something that maybe they need it. Of course, it's I think very beautiful for a family to have the opportunity to experience having a child together. But are we really honoring women and what they are actually doing for society? Because they are bringing children into the world. It's the workforce of tomorrow, and at the end, they are still the ones suffering. So for me, it's more about creating this opportunity for women to actually, as you say, not feel guilty, and to really create the space for them to show up as they are with their emotions. And you also said there are women that are not always supportive. And I think those women really just strictly to women, but in general, when we will learn to stop perpetuating the pain that we have experienced. So just because we went through something that was not pleasant doesn't mean that we need to force everyone else to go through the same.
Exactly. So I have seen women saying like, okay, this is something you can manage. You can do it. It's just that you're complaining about it. Okay. So when somebody is saying that, we think, oh my God, I'm wrong. I mean, someone else able to do it, I can't do it. We try to compare it with our potential. So I think the confusion is, it's between my capability or potential, or my ability to do something, and what my emotions and feelings that I'm going through right now, and honoring them. Okay. So honoring your emotions and feelings, it doesn't have anything to do with your capability, your potential, or your capacity. Yes, you honor your emotions and then you decide, I'm okay to stretch myself, that's fine. But with the aspiration to stretch your potential because the world is saying you can do it, while putting your feelings and emotions in the backseat is not okay. Because after 10-15 years, when those suppressed emotions comes out, sometimes it takes so much time to come out. It's only you who is going to deal with it, and not the world who was judging your potential or capacity. And I can gratefully say that these whole reflections have really helped me. Even recently, I faced an incident where my kids were not feeling well. Some of my work were getting postponed, and I was feeling guilty. Still, I have this kind of feelings that I'm experiencing, though I'm talking. And I had to pause and reflect what's really happening here. And this pain of exhaustion, of managing my kids, their sickness and everything, then I told to myself, this is important to me, and it's okay if this is getting postponed. And I am going to communicate that this is very important to me, and in this moment, I am not able to focus myself enough and put my energy enough into my work. And I actually did that. I focused, I took care of them, and once they were better, then I shift my focus to my work and I moved on. And I can tell you, my productivity is way too high than I thought it could have been, because I honored my emotions and feelings when I was taking care of my kids. I didn't say no.
Yeah. And that reminds me, I don't know if I had this conversation with you or in the past or someone else, but it reminded me when I was in this period where I had some health issues, and I just didn't feel I have the space to actually take time for myself and to really look after myself. And actually what I did was to push myself to do that extra effort to say, okay, they need me in there at work. I need to continue to deliver as best as I can. I work from home, so it's no problem. And trying to repress everything that I was feeling and the fact that I was not okay. And that also reflected in my work. And the feedback I got was not that, oh, we appreciate that you still try to do the work. The feedback that I got was that your performance is not as before. But they never asked what happened. They just saw the outcome. They just saw you are not doing your job as you were doing it before. And I felt a lot of frustration, like, okay, why they are not appreciating? And someone asked me this question, were you being professional in that moment? Because my understanding of being professional in that moment with that mentality I had back then was that to put aside everything I'm feeling, no matter how I'm feeling, and focusing on delivering and what I have committed myself to in terms of professional expectations. And then now today, if you ask me again, I was not professional, because being professional and having this maturity is to know which conditions you require to do your work at your best and own it. And I believe that people that appreciate your work and they appreciate your input will have no issue of saying it's okay if you can also deliver it in 2-3 days. It's fine for us, because they know that in 2-3 days, they will receive the quality that they know you can deliver. And I think that they appreciate more than repressing what you're feeling, doing the work, being frustrated or distracted, and then delivering something that maybe they will be disappointed. So it starts with us and having this courage to actually own our emotions and own our feelings, and to say, today, I'm not in the best shape to do this work, so I decide not to do it. I decide to honor myself. And I believe that true transformation comes from this, when we learn how to honor ourselves, because that's how we will show how others can honor us as well. But that goes beyond fear.
Point. That's very important, and very, very important what you said right now, that it's not just only about honoring ourselves, but we're also letting that message out to others on how they should honor me and my emotions and feelings. And at the interest of the time, I like to close this wonderful conversation with this beautiful write-up statement that I came across from Gabe. I think name is pronounced as Gabor. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing.
Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he says it's he. Am I right? It's he.
Yes,
correct.
It's he.
Okay. He says that you come from the mother and you relate to the mother. The mother is the universe for us. It's the universe that lets us down. When the father comes along as an abusive figure, the universe protects us or the universe doesn't protect us. So, researching the language of emotions, I found why the gut is such a crucial part of our inner knowing and stability. Why we have such a strong relationship with food beyond simple survival needs. In our formative years in the womb, our our cord digested food, sensations, and emotions. So, what they're saying is this person who has reflected, we don't only digest food, but also sensations and emotions from our mother. So, coupling events with our mother's outward actions and inward reactions. So, experiencing the outward via our mother's inner world, her true feelings, her true beliefs, and her true intent, at times unheard, unrecognized by her, were digested and fused with our way of responding to signals such as hormones. So, as adults, when the mind experiences new life events, at times we get that pang or warm, radiant feeling in our gut. Although we as sovereign individuals find the encounter novel, our bodies have already lived them through another being, our mothers. The mother being our universe is complex, intricate, and simply mesmerizing. That was so powerful. A person has reflected on this quote and has written today, and I just caught this and I thought, oh my God, so much we are carrying, so much we need to breathe on. So we welcome all of you, not next Wednesday, after 2 weeks on Wednesday, to join this grieving space. Until then, Anu and
Anna,
thank
thank you for listening and looking forward to connect in 2 weeks.